So we're going to have a look at this composite, and it's a good introduction to fusion. It's really just made up from a photograph and a particle system. So let's get going. So here's the comp, and if you're not familiar with fusion at all, then you can think of this as a map, and it has little arrows in it, and that's where we're going, and we follow the little arrows along and eventually reach the end. And this is the end of the comp. That's what we're viewing right now, because we can see what we're viewing because it's got this tiny little white dot here, and if you mouse over it you can see that it says eventually viewing on left, and if you click on the other dot we have viewing on right as well. So this is called the flow area, and these are your viewers. And you can kind of think of it, if I stack these on top of each other like this, you might think of it as a kind of layer stack as well. But really, it's a lot more powerful than a layer stack. So we have, for example, an image. Like this is a photograph I took a while ago, and then we're going to do something to it, which is called a transform, which means just shift it over to right there. So, but we could shift it around like that. Shift off the screen, and I'm just going to delete that. Leave it in. Just put it back where it was. Control Z. And back where it was. Right. And then we're going to do something which is called corner positioning, and then we keep going through, and then we have the merge node, and the merge node is kind of the fundamental of compositing, where something goes over the top of something else. And we'll get to all this stuff over the course of this little lesson. But let's do this bit first. So let's get rid of that. So Fusion is has a multi-project workspace, or whatever they call it. Where what it means is that you can have multiple comps open at the same time, and you can cut and paste between them. So I'm going to find something to work on. So where are we going? Fusion demos, and all this will eventually appear on my site. And we're working on something called Sunset. So, and you've got a drag and drop environment, so I can just drag and drop the plate onto my viewport like that, and that's what it looks like. This is called a loader, and I can also find a loader up here and just drag and drop onto the flow there, and we can find sunset again, and we can pick an image. We've got something called lens dust there, which is for another tutorial, so we can open that again like that. We can also right click and add a tool and add a loader in IO. Loader, pick it again. And then finally there's a keyboard shortcut which is Control Space, and that will open the Add Tool dialog, and then we can type in or drag the slider bar down and pick the tool like that, loader, and then once again we can open the file like that. So there you go, multiple ways to add a loader window. So here's our plate. It's quite big, and eventually we want it to be a HD frame. So we can do that by cropping it. So let's add a crop tool. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to add a tool, and I'm going to choose transform, crop. And automatically it picks an HD resolution, because that's the way I've got it set up, but you could type in whatever resolution you like there, and then I'll drag into that, and then it's cropped my big image into a somewhat smaller one. Unfortunately, it's in the wrong place. So I need to add a transform operation to get it into the right place. So let's do that with control space. So control space, type in transform, and we want the transform XF, this one. There we go, transform like that. And I want to wire that into this here. So we're going to go load, move something, and then crop it. And there's multiple ways of doing it. I can drag from there to there, and then drag from there to there, like that. And now the transform is wired in, and you can get this little preview into here. So now I can take the transform thing and start moving around. The other thing I can do is I can hold down shift, and that will remove the transform, so you can see it pulls back again. And I can also hold down shift and drag it on top again. You see what it highlights there like that, and then it will wire it in like that. So I'm just going to move this into somewhere sensible, like that. Yeah, that will do maybe a bit more, like that. Okay. So let's see a bit more about viewers. So you can see this white dot. That means we're viewing this node in the left viewport, and if you click on that dot, we'll view it in the right viewport. And we can click on a node here like this and press 1, and that will open it in the left viewport, or 2 will open it in the right. There you go, like that, like that. So I can do 1, 2, I can look at that one, turn it off again, that one, turn it off again, like that. So, we want to get this cloud moving, we want to make it a bit prettier. So, what I'm going to do is this. I am going to make a merge node. So let's do that. So we'll press space. No, we'll drag it from here. So up here we've got a bunch of commonly used tools. We've got the mer, which is the merge node. I'm just going to drag and drop it like that. You can see that I'm holding down the mouse still, and it's that little noodle is highlighted. So if I let go now, it's all wired in. And remember, if it doesn't quite work, you can hold down shift and try and wire it in like that, which didn't work either, or you can just wire it in by hand like this, that, and then that, dink. So now that merge node is in, and I'm going to take this thing here and I'm going to stick it on top of that, like that. So there we go. So we have two things going into a merge node, and we're seeing nothing change because they're both identical. So let's add another transform node. I'm going to drag and drop that and stick it on that. That's highlighted like that. So now I can move this transform node like that, and I can move one image over the other one like that. So we have two inputs, foreground and background. So the green one is the foreground, the yellowy orange one is the background, and by clicking on that transform I can move one plate over the other plate. Now, just for confusion as well, because it's such a common operation, this merge node also has a transform operation in it, which will do almost the same thing like that. So I can move, if I'm clicking on the merge node, I get another transform operation, which I can do as well. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to just turn that off by typing 0.5 and 0.5 back into there, which is the center of the frame. Right, so let's in fact put that back again. So here we have 0.5 and 0.5 back in the center of the frame. So we want a bit of cloud movement, which is going to look like something like that, say. But we don't want the ground to move, so we're going to mask it out. And we are going to mask it out with a spline. So these are my masking tools here, and we are going to choose a polygon mask, which is on PLY there. And drop it into there. And while it's highlighted, and that button is on, I can draw stuff on the screen. Amazing. Look at that. So what we want to keep the landscape from moving, and we want to keep the sun from moving, so I'm just going to draw a very rough spline like that, and make sure to close it at the end. And you can see there's a little circle that appears when I close that. Dink. There we go. That's all good. And in fact, I don't want that node. Let's keep it. So what you should bear in mind is that by default, Fusion will animate splines. So you'll get this little green bar here. I've actually turned that off because it annoys me. But by default, Fusion will animate splines. So if you do this, and then you press play, and then you do this, so you're editing and thinking about stuff, and it's just playing in the background. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You just made a spline animation like that. And I don't want to do that just yet. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to remove the key. Or in fact, what I really want to do is remove polyline, this one, and that'll kill everything. Because all animations are splines. Yes, they are. But we'll also get onto that later. But bear in mind, so when you drag out a polygon mask or something, and you draw some stuff like that, this will appear green. You don't want it to be green unless you want to animate. So right click here and do remove whatever polyline it is, that one, click, and then this will not animate when you move it. And yes, delete that. Right, so we have our spline, and what we're going to do is we're going to wire it into that little blue thing which says effect mask. So this is going to mask the merge operation. And I think we want to do this the other way around. Yeah. So yeah, there we go. We do want to do the other way around. Right. So what it's saying is everything in this mask, which actually needs to be like this. Yeah, there we go. Everything in this mask is not affected by our merge operation. Sorry, let's rewind. Everything in the mask is affected by the merge operation. That's what I want to say. I think. Right. So now our mask is this area here, and actually you can preview the mask like that. There it is. Oh, we can make it a little bigger, like that. And then go back into here. Right, there we go. So now when we move that bit, only the sky moves. Look at that. How cool is that? Now, you can see that we have a very sharp edge just here. It's a bit nasty and it's destroying the illusion somewhat. So, we shall make this edge soft. So we have a variety of sort of blurring tools, and we're just going to dial up. We're going to move this across to something obvious like that, and then we are going to go click on our polygon tool, and we're going to dial up the soft edge like that. Sometimes it's helpful, you can tick on this and you can turn off the line. It just helps you see what's going on. So just dial up the soft edge again like that, and you can see that's hiding our edge now in a big blur. Lovely. Although it's also making my mountain slide, which is probably a bad thing because I I don't think mountains slide like that. So let's just move that up and get that out of the way like that. Very good. Sweet. Cool. So here we have a very, very simple rotoscope shape, which is separating on two layers, the foreground and the background, so allowing us to do that. And in fact, we can animate this now. So we click on our transform node, and we want to animate this thing to do that. So let's click on this, and we can right click on that, and we want to animate it. So right click on that row here. So we're on frame 0, we set a key by simply dragging, and let's go to frame 100 over here, and then drag it this way a bit like that. And then I'm going to set my frame range to be 100 in fact. And now we have, eventually, let's turn off that, some moving cloud. So there are multiple ways of doing this kind of thing, and I've done this kind of cloud animation a lot. So you can split up, in fact, the clouds into separate layers, and you can move them all individually. But I think that the best trick for realism is to use what's called a corner pin. If you think about it, like all the way over here, this is in the far, far distance, and this stuff barely moves. And the cloud, the stuff closest to us up here, the closest cloud, will move the most. So we want this stuff to move nothing, and this stuff to move the most, and we can just do it with like a shear. We're going to do that with a corner pin. So we're going to remove that because that's ugly. By remembering that I do shift to wire and also shift and drag to unwire, so that goes over there. And then I'm going to right click, add tool, warp, corner positioner. You can also use this tool to do like sign replacement and stuff like that. It's pretty easy to use, but we're going to use it to make a nice shear operation on the sky. So I'm going to wire the corner positioner in, and once it's wired in, I can slide. Ooh, what's it doing over there? That's not right. Ooh, I moved that. Let's put that back in. 0.5 there. Right. So I can move the corners by doing this. Ooh, like that. And you get two different styles of warping. I'm going to use bilinear. So I can animate this again just by doing animate. So let's pick something like 0.1, I think it was. So we're going to have minus 0.1 over here. Ooh, no, not over there. Oh, bad. Let's remove that key. Right, remove key. Let's remove the whole thing. Okay, so go back to frame 1. Animate. There we go, -1. And we go all the way over here. And then we're going to slide this over here to about 0.1 again. That'll do. Right, like that. And I'm not going to worry about the fact that it's spilling out of frame because we are going to crop that later. So you can see that this side is now animating very slowly like that. It's quite quick. And I could do the same with the other side, like set a key, but I'm going to cheat and use an expression. So I can type equals in here, and that opens this, and this is like a pick whipper, I think it's called in After Effects. So I want this value to equal that value there. So you can see it's labeled it there. You can see that now the two values match. So let's just start it again. So I can also remove the expression like that. It's called an expression. To make an expression, I type in equals, and then I click the plus and I drag into the area I want to make an expression from, like that. So now the top left offset and the top right offset are doing the same thing, and it looks like this. Well, that's fast. Maybe let's turn that down. 0.05. So the rule is that if you're experimenting stuff and it takes a while to refresh, you should halve or double your values at least to see what's going on. So don't creep down to a value, just take big leaps and have a look. Still a little fast. So maybe like 0.3, I think that will do it. 0.3 and 0.3, there we go. Yeah, that's it. Great. So now, after it's transformed and cropped down to HD, it will look like this. Cool. Okay, so we took a static plate like that from a photograph. We made a merge node. Merge node takes a foreground and a background and puts the foreground on top of the background with a mask to cut it out. And that's our mask. Then we use the corner positioner to shear the sky, create some movement, very simply. And then we used a transform node to scale everything down, and finally a crop operation to cut it down to 1920 by 1080, which is HD, high definition. And there we go, that's what we get. And so that's the end of part 1. In part 2 we'll start looking at birds and particle systems, and then maybe we shall get into some film grain and some other effects in a third tutorial. Yes, maybe there shall be 3. Thanks for listening, and you know the score, subscribe and all that stuff, and there shall be more soon.